attention with students. Today being no different, we have students of Jamnabai Narsi School. We have with us Shreyans, Aryan, and Meher for today's panel discussion. Welcome, guys, for today's panel discussion. Great.
Thank you.
So much.
Today we are going to discuss about a interesting topic, and that has been a buzz since a year long. Today we are going to discuss about Metaverse. So Metaverse as defined as a simulated digital environment that uses AR, VR, and blockchain, along with concepts of social media. A metaverse is a network of 3D virtual worlds focused on social connection. In futurism and science fiction, it is often described as a hypothetical iteration of the internet. So let's discuss about the possibilities of having a transition of metaverse and how the future we see as if we talk about as a social person, or how we see the growth of businesses in the metaverse world. So starting with I want to start with, what can you do? Like, what are the possibilities if we think about metaverse as such? So Shreyans, we will start with you. What do you think? What are the possibilities? What we can do at metaverse?
So, well, looking at metaverse, looking at my limited knowledge about the metaverse, it basically talks about a virtual world where we can live in. I think for a huge while, we have been transitioning into the metaverse using things like digital currency, where we can now buy stuff using digital currency in a much more safe and secure way. And I think the metaverse would be a place where you can do what you would normally do, but virtually. So it would be sort of like it would be a sort of role playing place. So you could buy virtual property, you could buy virtual real estate, you could solve petty cyber crime in something like a cyber court. The options of the metaverse are limitless.
Certainly, I guess you have shared some great points. As you mentioned, ki the things which you can't do in a real life, maybe you can experience the same in the a virtual world. And as I shared in my introduction, ki, yeah, in the metaverse, as you described, it's a simulated digital environment. So we can create our own assets, virtual assets, and we can play with around it. Aryan and Meher, I want to we can go with you. What do you think? What are the possibilities we can do at metaverse? Starting with Aryan.
Sure. So I think, as Shreyansh mentioned, there has been a transition towards digital lifestyle, given the amount of time we spend on social media itself. And I think the metaverse is just an integration of that entire digital life that we're living into a more holistic view, like giving us an entire experience, not just select experiences. Like there was digital currency, and how Mark Zuckerberg has taken the entire experience of being virtually connected onto a different level, where we're able to be virtually connected through buying assets as well as exchanging currency, exchanging experiences at the same time. I remember recently there was a property sold for more than $600,000 in the metaverse, which just shows the power of how convincing people believe and the potential of the metaverses. So I think there's so much potential given it. And I think sometimes we find it difficult to differentiate, but I think there's a lot that's coming.
Great. I guess you have talked about, as you mentioned, about the metaverse thing. And when Facebook changed its name to Meta, the parent company of Facebook, when changed the name to Meta, then there was a, like, people were crazy about it, because Facebook being a platform used by more than 2 billion population, and the Facebook, WhatsApp, and Instagram been used by 2 billion population. So there was a buzz, and people were excited to know like what exactly is metaverse. So great points, Aryan. Meher, what is your take on this? Like, according to you, what do you think? What are the possibilities around it?
Yeah, so thank you for having me here today. So I think Shreyansh and Ariane have covered most part of it. But one thing which I would want to say is that the metaverse before today was a very alien term. Although it was coined way back, we've gotten to know about it only now. It's because of the vast use of social media, which is what the essence of the metaverse is, to connect everybody in the virtual physical world through augmented reality. And it's already existing, and people are transitioning into the metaverse, which is a great move. And only recently I read an article about how one of the countries is going to hold their first parliamentary meeting in the metaverse.
Yeah.
So even governments are looking into how to use the metaverse to its advantage. And for us, a lot of our games are already have segments of virtual reality and augmented reality. For example, the very popular video game Fortnite, it already has so many parts of virtual reality, and the metaverse is going to encompass all of this. So I think it's going to be revolutionary if people actually develop an interest into using it and actually have the capability and are guided well into how to go about using the metaverse, it's going to be revolutionary.
Certainly, I guess you have truly defined how it would be going to be revolutionary. And as you have seen in the case of like in the south, there was a case where a couple decided to complete a wedding on metaverse, and there was a case of where the film director decided to launch his first trailer. To launch his trailer on metaverse. So we have seen multiple used cases and examples where how all the people are trying to, like what I can say, they are trying to be as a part of this buzz, and they're trying to revolutionize the sphere. So, taking ahead with this revolutionary step, as you mentioned, do you think the businesses and there would be a great impact in the change of the social audience behavior? If we talk about if we plan to transition to metaverse, do you think there will be a change in the social audience behavior? As maybe it could be in the consumption of the social media platforms. Maybe there will be, or it could be a change in their personal or in their professional life. What do you think? Do you think there will be a change in the behavior? Aryan, you can start with.
Sure. So I think, as you mentioned, the metaverse is such a different concept, and as Meher and Shreyansh mentioned as well, it's something that's so different, and it's going to take a long time to transition. But I think at the same time, from the start of when social media really boomed, which was from the 2010s, we've noticed a continuing changing pattern in the way people act. Everyone is so focused on digitization and creating everything in the virtual world that I think it's a very good stage at which the metaverse has boomed, because there's so much access to technology and augmented reality and artificial intelligence, which I think will come into play. And as you spoke about consumers, I think consumer patterns have been changing, given that there are Instagram ads, Facebook ads, and they're just going to get integrated into the metaverse. And just, they might have a Times Square in the metaverse, so they might have ads in virtual reality as well. So there's going to be a lot of consumer psychology that's playing into it, and I think it's going to be a lot easier to influence the consumer in the metaverse.
Great points, Aryan. I guess you have highlighted like how it can be help the marketing. Like if you talk about from the perspective of the marketing, as you mentioned, the consumer behavior can be understood well advanced, and it could be also with the help of analytics. It could be measured as well. The consumer behavior can be measured, and the psychology could be better understand. And based on that, we can go for target marketing and niche. As you mentioned about we can have a specific marketing based on the niche and the interest levels. So great point shared, Aryan. Shreyans, what about you? Do you think there will be a change in the audience behavior and with the transition in metaverse?
Yeah, so like Aryan said, there would be a huge change, and I think a lot of people will take a little bit of time to adjust. Like in even now, there are so many stigmas about social media, and yeah, the metaverse would be a great platform for digital marketing and promotions, and like almost tens and thousands of different things. Like Meher said, there is staged to be a parliamentary meeting to happen in the metaverse. But with this growth in technology, we can also see that there will be also be a huge increase in cybercrime. So with the metaverse, a majority of the population will end up being on the metaverse, which makes these digital people or the digital renditions of ourselves incredibly prone to cybercrime. So think Russian hacking groups, say like DarkSide, they are already incredibly advanced with their technology, and maybe the metaverse would sort of give them that edge they need to, for the lack of a better word, take over the world.
Certainly, Shreyans. I guess, yeah, the example you highlighted from the perspective of cybersecurity, I guess that's a great example. And maybe they can tackle down this issue. The Russian forces can tackle down this issue, certainly. And also, as you highlighted from the perspective of digital marketing, so we have even Aryan also highlighted how we can have a better target marketing, and that we can understand the interest levels of the consumers and understand the psychology, and can go for an advanced marketing. And also the as you mentioned if we talk about from the business scenario, if we talk about how we used to save cost from offline to online marketing. Like when we went from offline to digital marketing, we have saved a lot of amount of money. And even going deeper into that, understanding the consumer psychology and the analytics, we can also save much cost. and this cost would be much helpful in bringing up more better and good products, because the we would be saving the cost in the marketing. So this is all apart from the business side. So let's go deeper. Do you think are we ready? Are we probably, if you say ki, we have seen some, we have seen nevertheless we have seen certain cases, certain used cases of metaverse in the real world, as we talk about the wedding, as we talk about the trailer. So is the whole mass of India is ready for a certain change, for a revolutionary change in the metaverse? Like if we talk about from the technological aspect, if we talk about the feasibility aspect. Meher, what's your take on this?
Yeah. So, to be very honest, the adoption of these technologies have happened much quicker than we would want it to, because of the post-pandemic world and how people had already transitioned into the virtual world. Now it's just increasing. In fact, the work from home culture has become so normal that it is really the new normal is going to continue like that. There are a lot of companies which still don't want their employees to come back to work, which again, it's just pointing or everything is pointing towards how the metaverse is going to be your new normal. So yes, adoption of these technologies have happened much quicker, and in fact a lot of businesses in the real estate market have used the metaverse to build 3D models of their business, of the buildings, and are actually making smart cities smart. So it depends on the development of each city. And talking about India, we're still a developing country. So I don't know what to comment on the masses. But yes, the upper middle class is surely ready for the metaverse and to transition into the virtual world. And I think it's going to be great, even if India as a whole, the population of India as a whole, can understand the benefits of the virtual world instead of just not accepting the new normal.
Certainly, I guess you rightly highlighted the point ki how the post-pandemic era, the pandemic has basically accelerated the process of having a transition to offline to online, and moreover from online to metaverse. So this has been a great transition, and also as you mentioned, ki the urban population is quite quicker ready with the feasibilities. If we talk about from the technology side and also from the viability side, they are prepared for the transition. But what about the rural population? Because if we talk about India, which has a 70% of the masses stay in the villages and the rural. So what about them? Shreyans, what is your take on this? Like, do you think the transition is the population is quite happy, and also they are ready with the transition? I guess, nevertheless, they're happy with the transition. So do you think the feasibility of the transition is quicker?
So I would kind of have to disagree with you on this a little. Like, we are urban people, we live in urban areas, but like you said, a majority of the Indian population is rural. We are talking about huge issues. We've accepted homosexuality as a thing, whereas these rural areas can't even accept the idea of love marriage if between opposite genders. So it's something which has been brought up in the parliament a couple of times. And to quote, so it's like a paradox which has been created. So we that some people believe that to talk about things like transitioning to a digital world, India needs to be advanced. But then some other people believe that if we take this transition to the digital world, India will advance. So this paradox, which has been created by the government, the rural area, and everything, that is, I think, the main hindrance onto getting the majority of the Indian population digitally. And now, as for the work from home aspect that Meher highlighted, so we've been from the post-pandemic world, we've moved, we majority of us work from home right now. But maybe the metaverse, we could create this sort of augmented reality where you can create a virtual office where you can work to create that sort of office setting overall, which I think would be a great addition to the metaverse.
I guess the paradox which you talked about is, I guess, that's a great take. So probably we should be accelerating the process of digital transformation, and then when we land up the digital, also the masses would be also ready for the digital space, for entering into the digital space. That's a great paradox, which you highlighted, Shreyans. So Aryan, what is your take on this? Do you agree with Meher and Shreyans, or do you have a different perspective to share?
Right. So when you talk about it, I think the main issue that India specifically would face is access to technology. First off, as you mentioned, that 70% of the country is rural. So I think just overcoming that barrier, even though, over the past 2 years of the pandemic, there has been a lot of increased access to technology, given that everything was virtual and we had to adopt to the virtual setting. So there has been an effort to, invest in more technology. But at the same time, I think it's just the urban areas and suburban areas that really have that access to technology that will equip us to get familiar with the metaverse itself. Here in India, the problem is most of the rural areas that we need to familiarize themselves with basic technology first, and then metaverse is such a complex concept that I think before familiarizing themselves with the metaverse, I think starting off with technology. So I think in terms of the urban setting, as Meher and Shreyansh mentioned, we're almost ready with getting prepared to transition into the metaverse. But in the rural area, we have a really long way to go.
I guess promoting having a awareness towards the process, and having a promoting the awareness, basically creating more awareness about the facilities and how this space can be beneficial for their daily day-to-day life. I guess that would be also a great take, where they can have a possibility, where we can have a possibility that they are also feeling quite engaging, and they're also being helpful with the process. So in case of the rural setting, so that's a great take we have discussed, guys. So moving ahead with this thing, as Meher has already highlighted the case of post-pandemic thing, and how do you think that how metaverse will work, like how it opens the door for post-pandemic work? Because the work-life balance, and we talk about the work culture, there has been a great changes in that. People used to like right now we are people are following for a hybrid culture, where when they are in need, they are coming to the offices. They are most of the time they are going for a work from home culture, or they are basically working remotely from different resorts, or different, like having spending a life of staycation, as we talk about workation. And new concepts have been come up when we talk about remote remote working remotely, staycation or workation. So how do you think there would be that metaverse will be also changing the sphere of post-pandemic work? So Shreyans, do you have? Shall we start with you?
Yeah, thanks. So I believe that this work from home culture is great. It's great if you utilize it well. Okay, so it gives you, so the work from home culture, it allows you to finish your work at your leisure, at your time, and it also gives you the option to work on so many different things. Even even it might be an unpopular opinion, but even online school gave us that option. It allowed us to finish our work during the normal school hours, and then not waste too much time on commuting, which gave us the option to explore ourselves more. And also, maybe when we're transitioning into metaverse, as I stated before, creating an idea of a virtual office, or an augmented office rather, since it's AR, that I believe would really, it would create that sort of it would be that sort of sweet spot between the productivity that a work environment gives us and the flexibility that a home environment gives us.
Certainly, I guess that were some great points, Shreyans. Aryan, what is your take on this?
So I think, as Shreyansh mentioned, that the work from home setting is more. It's become more a sense of convenience and leisure than really adding to it, because I think the entire experience from work from home has been. I think it's created a sense of relaxation and laziness in people, given that they have the access to extending deadlines, or they have the access of not commuting, because I think that was a very big part of working, and it was a pain of working commuting. But I think at the same time, having somewhere a fixed area where working is so important, because it allows you to have a set schedule. And I think not scheduling gives you that laziness. So I think in a way, the metaverse, what it does is it promotes working from home. And I think in a way, given that it's proven that social media does make you lazier and more fatigued. So I think if we add to the metaverse as well and just focus on transitioning fully to the metaverse, we're just going to become a very, very lazy and relaxed generation that I don't think we need to, because we've already had 2 years of sitting at home.
Yeah, I guess this is something we should be caring about, talking about the physical, of our physical health. And as you mentioned about being a, like for the last 2 years, maybe most of the population has become a couch potato. Like we are spending most of the time sitting in front of our cameras, just turning on our cameras and the laptops and smartphones. So yeah, Meher, what is your take on this? Like, how do you think the it would be having a change in the post-pandemic work?
Right. So the metaverse and the convergence of all these technologies could very likely be known as the Industrial Revolution 5.0 for all we know, because it is literally redefining our culture, society, and the economy as a whole, right? And I think we're about to enter an era where individuals are regaining control. 2 years we were confined to a house. Now we're regaining control, and we are like the metaverse will give us the power to disrupt the big tech companies and the government and the control they have on us, because information will be easily accessible to everyone. And perhaps that will be the truest sense of freedom that we all needed post pandemic.
Great. I guess as you mentioned about Industrial Revolution 5.0, there is something also called a Society 5.0, which is more likely human-centered approach, where the physical world and there is a great combination and there is a great interlinking between the physical world and the virtual world. So the gadgets, like if you see right now, there is like if there is a family of four, where there are like where there are like two parents and there is a one child, there is a grandparent viewed, and if there is a pet if there is a pet dog, and in the Society 5.0 we can see there is a robot is also being a part of the family, which is interlinked. So certainly metaverse can create infinite possibilities, and as Shreyans has already mentioned, there is limitless possibilities of being a transition and the uses. So last but not the least, I'd be curious to know how do you think a metaverse can also affect our education, like how it can open up some of the possibilities. We can discuss some of the possibilities and some of the vague imaginations do you think the metaverse can open up for us as a students. Shreyans, what are your perspective on this?
So I think the metaverse would be a great option for education, but I don't think it would be maybe not the best option for a college life or a school life, because a huge part of school life is socializing, right? So I think that aspect of it may not just work as well as, but for anything, but education would be a great thing. Like I can take Harvard CS50 class online for free, while other people may just pay $50,000 for it. So that sort of transition would definitely be there. And also maybe in the metaverse you can store infinite amount of information. So maybe the fact that memorizing something and then writing it down in an exam, that thing would definitely be avoided. But yeah, so overall it would be a very good aspect for education, not a very good aspect for school or college life.
I got it. When you mentioned about the memorizing part, I guess you were highlighting to this online exams, where there was like a lot of the online exams were mishap kind of thing, and uh, it's like a perception of the teachers, like the online exams are not fruitful for the students. Even I guess as you mentioned, the social life of a school, like being a school, like spending a time with your friends, quality friends. I guess that's much there to learn, and which we could be missing in when we are in the metaverse world. So Aryan, what do you think? What are your views on this? Like, how do you think education as such would be affected, and what would be the possibilities we can see in the education sector?
Sure. So I think as Shreyansh mentioned that there are both pros and cons. The pros definitely are very evident. Access to education is something that's so important, and having free access to education, and especially in a country like India, is something that's so important given the disparity that we have in our rural and urban areas. As I mentioned, that technology is far from getting to the rural areas, but there is a start. And I think once you're integrated with that, I think it's going to be great for the rural areas. But I think the fundamental part of school life or college life itself is interacting with people, interacting with your professors, your peers, and I think that experience is unparalleled, and even the metaverse can't compare, given that physical connect with a person is so important because it helps you grow in ways that you can't. When you're virtually connected, it's a very different experience to when you're physically with a person, and I think that is something that takes away, the metaverse takes away, because it's giving you access to a lot of free education. At the same time, it's not giving you that real life experience that you really want, and especially after these 2 years, I think online school was the easier way out for a lot of people, but I think it was not the best way because it wasn't allowing us to really learn and at the same time socialize with the people that we would have wanted to.
Certainly, I guess you people, as you guys mentioned about like the real time experience, the personal touch with the teachers or with the friends, we were missing out. And nevertheless, when the after the 2 years when the schools were starting off, and the when the school started and the students were allowed for offline classes, they were like they were enjoying, like they were missing a lot of the fun, they were missing a lot of the fun. Even I have seen there has been a lot of misery cases. There has been cases of misery where the students has to miss their farewells, the students have to miss the freshers, a lot of several functions during this part. Nevertheless, we can also have, as you guys mentioned, this possibilities, there are the possibilities we can also have the similar kind of uh, functions, similar kind of celebrations over the metaverse world, where each person from the from their from their home, having their own gravatar, having their own avatar, would be meeting each other in the metaverse world. So Meher, what do you think? What are your views? Like we have discussed a lot of possibilities in the education sector. What is your
Right. So I would only have to agree with Shreyansh and Aryan, but I would have also like to add that the metaverse is quite literally the imaginary world we all dreamed of, right? So when it comes to imagination and creativity, it's endless opportunities in the metaverse. And for education too, for teaching, for example, if the teacher is teaching you about Greek mythology, the metaverse gives you the opportunity to actually go into the past and how, experience truly how the Greeks used to live, their civilization, their culture. So there are a lot of advantages too, but again, the physical interaction, the physical touch, or even any social interaction which is not virtual is what is lacking. But we never know what the future holds for us. Maybe the metaverse comes up with something that bridges that gap too. So yeah, that's all I'd like to say.
Great, great, great points, guys. I guess there were a lot of takeaways from this discussion. I personally find it quite fruitful, and it was quite engaging. It was quite amazing to see a lot of your perspective and what are the views against this topic, metaverse, and the possibilities which you shared, and also Meher, as Meher, you shared some possibilities of visualizing the future. So this could be some endless possibilities. If metaverse also bridges the gap, then I guess we can see endless possibilities, and the road is quite brighter for all the people. And even also we can crack the code for the rural setting, then nevertheless we can be a truly a digital world and a meta, like would be, I guess we can be a country with having endless possibilities to metaverse. So being in a nation of a lot of engineers, the AI engineers and virtual, and we have also AI scientists, data scientists, VR. So this, they can make it seamless, they can make the experience seamless, and they can help us in getting this transition quite easier. And as Shreyans mentioned a good point about storing of a lot of information with the help of cloud technology. So with this technology, with the technological advancements, it makes us quite helpful, and also it is easier for us to have a transition to the metaverse. So thank you guys for joining for this discussion. I hope you enjoyed this discussion, this panel discussion. The viewers who are watching us on our social media platform, I hope there were some great takeaways from this discussion. Drop your comments on the platform. We would be love to hear your comments and what are your views on having a transition to metaverse. Thank you guys for joining in. See you all the viewers in the next discussion at 5 p.m. Thank you.